are back, and today, way too early, round 1, 2025 Fantasy Football Mock Draft. This is going to be PPR format, you're on the clock. 12-team league, the top 12 picks in your Fantasy Football League will go like this in 2025. The first pick, the 1 of 1, we're going to be looking at Ja'Marr Chase. He's going to be the first player off big boards, man. He's consistently ranked among the top 5 players in fantasy football over the past few years. If Ja'Marr Chase was on your team this season, you were probably at least in the playoffs unless you sold in every other aspect of team building. But it's notable to note that he's going to be having a contract extension this season in the offseason. So he's going to be happy going into 2025. He's going to be the definitive number 1 option because T. Higgins is probably going to depart in free agency. The 4th-year receiver won this year's Triple Crown, leading all major receiving categories, and he averaged, get ready, 24 fantasy points per game. It was the highest points per game total among non-quarterbacks this season. He's very good at speed, very athletic, very good catching ability, and his connection with Joe Burrow makes him the 1 of 1 in this year's 2025 fantasy draft. Now, before we do the next 11 picks in a row, please smash the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Smash the like button and comment down below. I will do a 2-round mock draft next, followed by a 3-round mock draft and a 4-round mock draft if you guys show some support. Now, the 102 is going to be Bijan Robinson. Now, Bijan Robinson had a very disappointing start to the season. He had 5 not-so-good weeks. Next, he then started beginning to play well in mid-October. As the season went on, the Falcons struggled, but Bijan Robinson emerged as one of the league's best running backs. From week 6 on, he had 5 games in which he scored over 22 fantasy points, and he was the overall RB2 from week 12 to 18, competing with, guess who, Saquon Barkley. Now, why is he ahead of Saquon Barkley? Well, he's one of the strongest fantasy options for 2025 because of age, and we're optimistic that Michael Penix Jr. will develop with this offense, and that the Falcons will still be able to pursue the NFL red zone, where Bijan Robinson can continue getting some touchdowns. Don't be surprised if he gets 20 touchdowns next season. He just had a lot this year as well. The 103 is going to be Justin Jefferson. Now, Jefferson's a bit harder to project. We don't know the likelihood of Sam Darnold staying with Minnesota. It may be considered a down year for Justin Jefferson. He came off an injury-plagued 2023 season. He wanted to bounce back, and he got 103 receptions, 1,553 receiving yards, and 10 touchdowns, where he was the wide receiver 2 behind Ja'Marr Chase. So, throughout 5 years in the NFL, which is how long he's been in it, he's been among the top 3 receivers in 4 of those seasons. So 4 out of 5 seasons in the NFL, he was top 3. So who's to think he's not going to be top 3 again in 2025? Now, there was expectations of a slight dip in his production when Sam Darnold was the Vikings quarterback before week 1. However, Sam Darnold looked pretty good throughout the season. Obviously, the end of the season, playoffs, choke job of the year. So we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like, but he's kind of proven that he's going to be quarterback proof in his career. So I like Jefferson at the 103. The 104 is Saquon Barkley. So now we have 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs on the board. Saquon has always been an OP player, but when he went to Philly, we got the O-line take a step up, a lot to prove, win some playoff football games, right? You're not on the New York Giants anymore, buddy, and we are going to have a New York Giant in the top 12, so we'll see about that. But Saquon Barkley finished the season as the RB1, averaging an impressive 22 fantasy points per game, one of the best averages for a running back in recent memory, and it's going to be very challenging to draft any running back ahead of him, even Bijan, especially after seeing him get over 2,000 yards this season. Now, this is it's got regression written all over it. Hopefully he doesn't get injured. If he can stay healthy, Saquon Barkley can easily finish as the RB1 again. He had 2,000 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. He had 278 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Hell of a year from Saquon. If you get him at the number 4, you're happy for sure. The 105 for me is going to be Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I'm a bit higher on Jahmyr Gibbs than other people, mostly because we have David Montgomery vulturing some of the touchdowns. Alvin Kamara has been one of the greatest fantasy football running backs of all time, and now Jahmyr Gibbs is reminding me a bit of Alvin Kamara. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's getting so many receptions in this Lions offense. He had a really strong 2024, especially finishing out. He had 52 receptions for 517 yards and 4 touchdowns, along with 1,400 rushing yards to go along with it. And if you're worried about David Montgomery, vulturing some of his touchdowns, Jahmyr Gibbs had 16 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns, and he actually had more touchdowns on the season than Saquon Barkley by 5. So we drafted Saquon ahead of him, And Jahmyr Gibbs at the 105, you're going to be happy about it. And David Montgomery, he's getting old. He already had that injury to finish the year off. Jahmyr Gibbs will do just fine in 2025. Mark my words. The 106 is going to be Mr. CeeDee Lamb. Now, CeeDee Lamb, if I get CeeDee Lamb at the 106, I'm hopeful, but I'm scared. He went into the 2024 season high on everybody's draft boards. I think he was going number 2, number 3 in 2024 drafts. Now, he's a reception beast, and, Dak Prescott's there, all that good stuff. He's had really good seasons in the past, but 2024 was a down season, whether it be due to injury, whether or not. He's a PPR volume type player, 101 receptions and 1,200 receiving yards in 2024, only 6 touchdowns, and the Cowboys offense took a step back as a whole. Now, I am hoping that he can get back to that 1,800 receiving yard, 12 touchdown season that he had in the past. And I think that if the Cowboys draft an offensive player like Genty, even though Genty's kind of rising up draft boards, maybe they draft somebody that can help him block. I mean, they got to find a second receiver in that offense to kind of take some of the pressure away from Prescott. And the Cowboys need so much. They even need defense, man. If the Cowboys can take a step up in any way, then we should see CeeDee Lamb kind of go back to having that good season. Prescott was hurt too. He was playing with not so good quarterback play this season. I think CeeDee Lamb has the chance to be a quote-unquote breakout at the 106 and kind of compete with Jamar Chase is in a league of his own. I think CeeDee can compete with Justin Jefferson for that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 spot. Now looking at the 107, Puka Ngata, man. Puka Ngata is very, very good. In the regular season this year, he had 990 receiving yards, he had 3 touchdowns, and he had 46 rushing yards. Now, 990 receiving yards, don't sleep on it, boys, because PPR, he had a lot of receptions, and also he was injured for a lot of the season. Now, injury concerns are something that we should be bringing up with Puka Ngata. It is scary, but his usage is something in a league of its own. He gets so many receptions. He broke the rookie record for receptions in 2023. He elevated his performance from 2023 in 2024, despite missing a lot of the season. He is very physical. He does get, he does run those routes in the middle of the field, so he is a higher risk of injury. But this guy could be the wide receiver 1. He could be the wide receiver 1 over Jamar Chase, and he's probably the only guy that I want to say that about just now, because I'm talking about talent-wise. Jefferson has the talent for sure, but I don't think the opportunity's there. Stafford and Puka could be lethal in 2025, mark my words. 108 is Nico Collins. Nico Collins, similar to Puka Ngata, very good in the games he was healthy. 68 receptions, 1,006 receiving yards, a bit more of a red zone threat too. He had 7 touchdowns. So Nico Collins had a very strong season in 2024. I think a lot of people actually slept on him. When he first came into the fantasy football scene in 2023, he had 80 catches for 1,300 yards. He's quick. He's 6'4", has an advantage in a lot of matchups, especially the red zone. So he was on track to break several franchise records in 2024, and then he got that injury. By week 5, he had 36 catches and 567 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. He could have been the wide receiver 1 in 2024 if he stayed healthy. So getting Nico Collins at the 108 is a strong draft pick choice. The 109 for me is Mr. Amon St. Brown. Again, I'm happy taking Amon at the 109. 1,263 receiving yards, 115 receptions, and 12 touchdowns. So the thing about Amon, he gets a lot of receptions, right? 115, that's pretty solid. He's a very tough player. So he plays through injuries a lot, and we haven't seen him miss an extended period of time. So I think he's a little bit less injury prone than the likes of Nico Collins and Puka Ngata, who we've seen miss time in the past. Now, yes, he's in the best offense in the NFL, one of the best, and he does have target competition with Laporta. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to steal touchdowns. D-Mont's going to steal touchdowns. Jamison Williams kind of broke out in 2024. So Amon St. Brown has target competition, but what he lacked in receiving yards, he made up for in touchdowns. He had a streak where he had like 6 games with a touchdown in a row. He had 12 touchdowns on the year. Very impressive. Don't sleep on Amon. He's still that alpha wide receiver 1 in that offense. If you get him at the 109, you're happy about it. Now, at 110, there's a bit of a teardrop in my opinion. The first 9 guys I'm very excited about. 10, 11, 12, I'm happy about, but it just doesn't hit the same. At the 110, we go Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers had 109 receptions, 1,200 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns as a rookie, with Tommy DeVito as his quarterback. That is quite wild. He is a superstar player. I mean, this guy proved everybody wrong. He outperformed Marvin Harrison Jr. He showed he was the best receiver in this class in 2024, and he's just very versatile. He had a very strong season at the wide receiver 8, catching passes from Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and Tommy DeVito. All three of those quarterbacks are probably done in the NFL. So Malik Nabers was asked what he wants to see in the next quarterback of the Giants, someone that can be a leader, come into this offense and learn as quickly as possible, give us the chance to compete. So if the Giants get a good quarterback in the draft, maybe Cam Ward, Malik Nabers could step his game up another level. So I like him at the 110. At the 111, another rookie, BTJ. Brian Thomas Jr. had a similar season. He had more touchdowns. Did he have more touchdowns? Yes, he did. He had 3 more touchdowns than the neighbors. He had 87 receptions, 133 targets, 10 touchdowns on the year, and he had 1,300 receiving yards. And keep in mind, BTJ was injured. He was banged up. Trevor Lawrence was out for some of these games. So if you get BTJ that late in the first round, you're happy about it. Year 2 breakouts for wide receivers. Their year 2 season, they typically take a step up and elevate. Trevor Lawrence is going to be probably playing for a starting job, because if Trevor Lawrence has another down year, if the Jaguars can't win, then the fans are going to want to burn the team. So BTJ at the 11 I like. And finally, finishing out the first round, there's a lot of names here we could talk about. Bucky Irving, Derrick Henry, JT. I'm going Devon Achane, man. The efficiency of this guy has been otherworldly. In 2024, he had 907 rushing yards. He had 592 receiving yards and 78 receptions. He had 12 total touchdowns. What everybody overlooks with Devon Achane is the receiving usage. This guy had 78 receptions, 592 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. In a PPR format, that cannot be overlooked, and that's why I put Devon Achane, man. And his efficiency as a rusher, he might not get the same volume, but he averages like 5+ yards a carry. Gotta go with Achane at the 112. And then round 2, if you guys show support, ask for it down below. Smash the subscribe button. I'll drop a round 2, round 3, etc., and we'll do a whole nother mock draft. Peace out, boys. Thanks for watching.